Today, in this video, I'll be going over Josh Allen's 2024 MVP season and saying how good was it really. I'll be going over stats week by week. I also have two videos that are pretty similar to this one that I'll have linked in the description. Without further ado, let's get into the video. In the season opener against the Cardinals, they would win 34-28. Josh would go 18 for 23, throw 232 passing yards, throw 2 touchdowns, and no picks. He would also rush for 39 yards and 2 touchdowns on the ground. Next up, the Dolphins. They would win 31-10. Josh would go 13 for 19, throw 139 passing yards, 1 touchdown, no picks. He would also rush for only 2 yards on the ground this time. Next up, the Jaguars. They would beat them 47-10. Josh would probably put on what was his best game of the season, going 23 for 30, throwing 263 passing yards with 4 touchdowns, no interceptions. He would also rush for 44 yards on the ground. Now, up to this point, Josh was having a pretty solid start to the season. Maybe throwing a little less pass yards than usual, but he's playing safe with the ball. He thrown 7 touchdowns and no picks, which Josh is usually a big pick guy, but usually throws a lot of touchdowns. But then they would lose to the Ravens 10-35. Josh would go 16 for 29, 180 passing yards, no touchdowns, no picks, and rush for 21 yards. This is what I'd say is one of his not horrible, but one of his lower tier games through the schedule. But it was also against a good team in the Ravens. The Bills would then go to play the Texans, where they'd lose in a close game 20-23. Josh would go 9 for 30. 9 for 30. That is insane. He did throw a touchdown and had 131 passing yards. He didn't throw a pick, and he also rushed for 54 yards. But going 9 for 30, completing less than a third of your passes, is kind of insane. Then, the next week, they'd play the Jets, where they'd bounce back and win 23-20, my bad, in a close matchup. Josh would go 19 for 25 for 215 passing yards, 2 touchdowns, no picks. He would also rush for 18 yards on the ground with a rushing touchdown. So an overall pretty solid performance, and also a nice needed win against the Jets. Next week, they would play the Titans, where they would have another blowout win, just like they did with the Jags, where they'd win 34-10. Josh went 21 for 33, threw 323 passing yards, had 2 touchdowns, no picks. This is just like last week against the Jets, a pretty good performance. Though not against a great team. Let's see. The next week they would play the Seahawks, another blowout win. They'd win 31-10. Josh would go 24 for 34, throw 283 passing yards, have 2 touchdowns, and threw his first interception of the season. Now, up to this point, he had thrown, 12 touchdowns and no picks. Then he'd finally throw his first interception, bringing his total to 14 touchdowns and 1 interception. In this game, he'd also add 25 rushing yards on the ground. They would then go play the Dolphins, where they'd win 30-27. Josh would go 25 for 39, throwing 235 passing yards, 3 touchdowns, 1 pick. Again, just another overall solid performance. Like the last 4 games he's had at least 2 touchdowns and 1 pick or less. So he's having a pretty good solid stretch here, but this will be broken up in a minute. They go play the Colts, where they actually come out winning 30-20, despite Josh throwing 2 picks. Josh would go 22 for 37, 280 passing yards, 0 touchdowns, 2 picks, but would add 50 yards on the ground with a rushing touchdown. They would then go play the Chiefs, where, of course, per usual, they would beat them in the regular season. Josh would go 27 for 40, 262 passing yards, 1 touchdown, a pick, and would add 55 rushing yards on the ground with a rushing touchdown. The next week, they'd go play the 49ers, where they'd win 35-10. Josh would go 13 for 17, not having to throw a lot of pass attempts, to throw 148 passing yards, had 2 touchdowns, no picks, would also rush for 18 yards on the ground with a rushing touchdown. They would then go to play the Rams, where they'd lose 42-44, which that seems like a Bengals-Ravens game. Josh would go 22 for 37, 342 passing yards, 3 touchdowns, no picks. He'd add 82 rushing yards on the ground with 3 rushing touchdowns. I lied. I said that his game against the Jaguars was his best game. This one was probably his best game. He had 6 total touchdowns, which is pretty insane. They would then go play the Lions, where in another shootout, they'd win 48-42. Josh would go 23 for 34, throw 362 passing yards, 2 touchdowns, no picks. He'd also rush for 68 yards on the ground with 2 rushing touchdowns. Then they'd go play their rivals, the Patriots. They'd win 24-21. He'd go 16 for 29, 154 pass yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. He'd also rush for 30 yards on the ground. And for his last game that he started for the season, they'd beat the Jets 40-14. Josh would go 16 for 27, throw 182 passing yards, 2 touchdowns, no picks. He'd also rush for 17 yards on the ground with a rushing touchdown. They would then play the Patriots, where they did not have Josh play. They just had him get ready for the playoffs. They had Mitch play. They would lose 16-23. Not that it matters. Then, obviously, Josh, before the playoffs, would win the regular season MVP, though I kind of debated it. I think it could be Lamar Jackson. Though I do love Josh, I think they kind of gave it to him because they didn't want to give Lamar Jackson 2 in a row. So now, the playoffs. First game they'd play is the wild card against Denver, where they'd absolutely stomp them out. They'd win 31-7. Josh would go 20 for 26, 272 passing yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. He'd also rush for 46 yards on the ground. So the playoffs were looking pretty good for the Bills. They'd then go play Baltimore, where they'd win 27-25. Probably win that game based on that Mark Andrews on the drop 2-point conversion. But that's besides the point. Josh went 16 for 22, 127 passing yards, no touchdowns, no picks. He also rushed for 20 yards on the ground with 2 rushing touchdowns. He obviously didn't have to do too much through the air in this game. He did have the 2 rushing touchdowns, though. And then they'd go play the Chiefs. They'd lose 32-29. What seems like they always lose to the Chiefs in the playoffs. Josh would go 22 for 34, 237 passing yards, 2 touchdowns, no picks, and rush for 39 yards on the ground. Just a sad ending to the season, another loss to the Chiefs. But Josh did have a great season. Obviously, like I said at the beginning, winning the MVP, which, again, I know I don't want to discredit him. It could have gone to Lamar, but I still think he did have a great year. He had 63.6% completion throughout the whole season. He threw 3,731 passing yards, which is kind of low for him. The last 4 seasons, he's had at least 4,200 passing yards. He threw 28 touchdowns, which is actually his lowest since 2019. But again, he was really safe with the ball compared to his other seasons. He only threw 6 picks. Last season, he threw 18. The season before that, 14. The season before that, 15. So this is his first season since 2019 with less than double-digit picks. And this is also his season with the least of his interceptions. He also did really good on the ground that people will give him credit for. He rushed for, He rushed for 531 rushing yards and had 12 rushing touchdowns. Now that 12 rushing touchdowns is pretty insane. The only reason that I could say you could pick Lamar over him, or you could pick Josh over Lamar, is because I'm pretty sure Lamar had 4 rushing touchdowns the whole season. Josh had 12. The season before, he had 15 as well, where he was an MVP candidate. On the screen right now, like in my other videos, I should be talking over a rating of how good games, mid games, and bad games that he had. I'd say he probably has a lot of good games under his belt, just like Lamar Jackson had in my previous video, which you should check out. My final verdict for Josh Allen is that, just like Lamar, he's a great quarterback who probably has a lot of more great years ahead of him. I hope he wins the Super Bowl. I do really like Josh Allen, even though I am a Bears fan, so it's kind of random. But I just despise the Chiefs, and I like Josh Allen. But that's pretty much it. Thank you for watching.